Welcome to another edition of Great Health, Abundant Happiness, and Outrageous Love. This is just a quick one. We're going to start a series here on twin flames. A lot of people have been asking us about that. Karen, what is a twin flame? I mean, I think there's a lot of different versions out there, but why don't we just explain what we believe?
Right, and I want to clarify that a twin flame and a soulmate are two different things. So this series will be on twin flames, and we'll get into soulmates as well. A twin flame is a soul that gets to such a high vibration in life. It's just so, bursting that it actually splits into two and drops down into two different bodies.
In the next life.
In the next life, right. And, Jeffrey and I are definitely twin flames. I mean, there's absolutely no doubt about that. Everyone doesn't have a twin flame, according to what we've studied.
Well, yeah, I think that's probably right, and I think it's
well,
probably,
every soul doesn't split.
Yeah, and I think it's probably right, but also probably good for the psyche. I mean, you can't, drive yourself crazy going around looking for your twin flame. Because the next thing I want to hit is, how do you find your twin flame?
Right.
Because it's a splitting of a soul, they're basically drawn back together. So it's how do you find that person? You really don't have to find them. You're actually drawn together.
Exactly. The universe will bring you back together. And what's really fascinating about this is that depending on the timing of when you are brought back together in this life, you may or may not stay connected on a relationship level with your twin flame. So, perfect example, when Jeffrey and I first met, a lot of people say when you first saw him, did you know he was the one? I didn't know he was the one because I didn't know who I was when I met him. And it wasn't until 3 years later when the universe brought us again together. We had not seen each other or talked to each other or really known anything about each other's lives, until we ran into each other again 3 years later, at which time I felt like I was at such an amazing point in my life where I was really happy with everything I was doing. I was feeling like all my journeys were going in the right direction. And coincidentally, Jeffrey was in the same spiritual and mental and physical situation. And that is mission critical for twin souls to actually come together and work really well in a loving relationship.
Well, it sets it up. You have to be ready.
Right.
So that's what I mean about being drawn back together, and don't worry about it. You don't have to go out and search for the person.
Right.
So I had met Karen. We had a short interaction, and then 3 years later, when I say interaction, it was just a conversation, a line, Christmas shopping. We'll go through that whole story in another video.
Right.
But basically, 3 years later, in a very crowded bar scene outside, it was outside in Boston, she kind of saw me across the crowd and mentioned something to her friend, and ended up coming over. It was interesting. So we had that discussion. And to be honest with you, when she first came up, I wasn't really sure. I didn't fully remember, but then I did. But it was...
and it's really, a twin soul, a twin flame is also your mirror soul. So it's interesting because you may not always recognize that immediately. It really depends on where you are.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't recognize it immediately.
Right.
You almost have to spend a little time together so you can start to see those things. And there's it can be tough too, because you end up thinking the same things, and your mirror soul, as Karen said, shows you things about yourself you may not like. So that also can cause some I don't want to say conflict. It's not really conflict, but abrasiveness in discussions, and maybe they turn into arguments. But hopefully those are things that you can get through quickly. And again, story for another day about handling things like that.
Exactly. And I feel like on our first actual date that we had, which was at tiny, cute little restaurant in Boston that's long gone called Corey's. I knew on that date that we were soulmates and twin flames. And, you know, I think back to that date, and we had such magnetic conversation. We were on the same wavelength. We were already finishing each other's sentences. We knew what the other person was going to say. It was utterly comfortable, as if you're home, right? There's no pretense, no game playing. It's hard to explain, and I want to try to do it as best I can so that you know if it's a twin flame or a soulmate or neither. It's like you're not worried at all about losing the relationship. In fact, quite the opposite. You already know this relationship is working.
This is just an example right here. We decided to just put this on. We've got to get ready for something else. So short, but I'm getting ready to answer for you, but you're saying this, so I was just going to say it from a different way. You're saying you're not worried about losing. You know you have it. I was going to say that, you know, I told you from the beginning, not that I was worried about that either, but hey, even if you leave me or this doesn't work out, I'll be at your deathbed. Right? Taking care of you. Right? And I mean,
we've said these things to each other. And I've said to you throughout our 29 years of marriage on numerous occasions, you know, people will ask when Jeffrey used to travel if I was worried, and I used to say, absolutely not worried about, you know, him ever leaving me. If he ever felt that there was someone better for him, he should pursue that. But I can say that knowing that we have a connection that is so powerful. That's why there's no fear about it. It's a meant to be connection. And, you know, there's so much to talk about this. On our first date, and we'll wrap it up after this because I want to get into this into more detail as well. On our first date, I remember it so vividly. We were sitting at a small round high top, and I don't think throughout the entire date, of which, you know, we hadn't spent time together before this date, I don't think there was a moment where we weren't touching. And I think that's a really big sign of twin flames, that there's this need, this magnetic pull towards each other to be as close as you can. And Jeffrey and I think, are as close as two people can be. We spend all of our time together. We love to spend all of our time together. And there's so many different factors about twin flames that we're really excited to share. And if you have questions about twin flames, put them in the comments so that we make sure that we address them.
Yeah, we're going to dig in deeper. So just want to do this today. What is a twin flame? How do you find each other? And then how do you know? So,
and
you know, I think we've hit that.
Yeah, and just one more time, Jeffrey, what is a twin flame, so we can leave with that thought so that people can really, really ponder it?
Well, it's a you know, it's a soul that evolves to a certain level, higher vibration, that ends up, you know, splitting in the next life. Those two split souls go into two new bodies, and then those two bodies are drawn together. So that's the definition of a twin flame. And that's why there's such attraction there. And, you know, how do you know? You finish each other's sentences. You kind of you know this innately, intuitively, and it's just through the process. Once you meet and you come through, and you have to kind of figure this back out, because we're down here in this life, in these bodies, and, you know, we're trying to figure this stuff out. We're all trying to figure this stuff out as we go through this journey, as we evolve. And you know, on that path of enlightenment, we're still working on it today. We're still working on it. So we're trying to share what we know.
Absolutely. It's an ongoing journey.
Yeah. Good.
Wishing you great health, abundant happiness, and outrageous love from the nest at Copper Mountain.
And go ahead and click off and subscribe. We'd love to have you on this journey. We're going to do a whole series on twin flames. Thanks.